So I'm going to be talking a little bit today about messaging and marketing in a post-COVID world, which really we're all figuring out as we go, to be honest. We're in a pandemic. We're potentially in a post-recession. We are in a highly charged environment for social equality and injustice. We are in the Western states in somewhat of an environmental climate where our environment, our wildfires are changing every minute. So it's really not just one thing. It's everything that you thought would ever happen on a movie. I think we've all seen that movie Pandemic, I think, and it feels like sometimes we're living that in real life. So I do have a presentation, and in this presentation, I do use the example of Plymouth Bank, like I mentioned, in order to really make it real on how you can message and really attach to your audience and really create value and create content that really speaks to people personally. A lot of what you're going to hear today is really how it's more important than now to connect with people, and it's more important now than ever to feel like you're speaking to individuals personally. People are looking to really create value. There was great think with Google actually this morning pushed out kind of their new, kind of where video marketing is. And it talked a lot about you need to meet people with their core needs. And right now, people's core needs are self-care. So when you look at videos with nature sound, there's been a 25% increase in videos created on YouTube with nature sounds in the background because people are looking for self-care. People are looking for social connection, right? So there's been a huge increase in the hashtag with me. People showing people how they make their food, how they do their hair, how they put their makeup on. You have to think people have been really isolated and they're really looking to connect with people and bring people into their lives. So you'll see, self-care has become a big, big theme. And then really identity is another core need that we're really seeing from people. Identity, not just your ethnicity, your race, or your gender, but your understanding of self and who you are and how you identify in this post-COVID world. So as we're going through this, really think about your product, your person, your business, and how you can meet that core need of self-care, that core need of identity, and that core need of social connection. And then before we jump into, I just wanted to go through, we did an article that appeared in the paper that just had like some core fundamentals and some core tips that I just wanted to touch on before we dive into this presentation. So number one, set a helpful and constructive tone with whatever you do. So as we go through this, think about my persona, my business, my nonprofit, my organization. How can that tone I set be constructive and helpful, especially in a pandemic, right? We're all under a lot more emotional, financial, mental strain than we usually are, and we all have a little less patience. So instead of pointing the finger and fanning the flames and saying, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, think about how you can contribute to that public chaos in a good way. Focus on being constructive, honest, and kind. So think about that as we go through this. And again, think about your audience needs. Lots of clutter is out there right now. We need to really focus on the needs. Plan for the long game. This isn't a short game, guys. We're really building trust as a long game, and that's really what you should be doing with most of your audiences right now. And then really leaning into digital communication. So in just leaning into digital communications, because things are changing so rapidly and so quickly, the place that happens is really digitally. And we're gonna have to embrace that even more than ever now. All right, so like I kind of said, none of us ever imagined businesses will be closed, we'd be wearing masks, all this increased sanitation, social distancing, and what this new normal is and how we operate in that. So during these tough times, it's important for us to dig our heels in and focus on leadership competencies and to draw on our emotional intelligence. IQ is really, really important, but during the recession, the pandemic, the social unrest, the environmental disasters. I think we had a fire tornado, and I think a couple days ago in the South, we had a hurricane that was guaranteed to kill you if you came across it, right? So our EQ is more important than ever. So as you're going through creating different communication strategies, I think it's really, really important to not just have you look at that and not just have the people close to your business look at that, but think about bringing some other people in to look at that from an emotional intelligence perspective as well. Because we've got to be insightful, we've got to offer valuable information, and we've got to be reliable as we communicate across all these different groups. So some of the challenges we're facing right now. These are a few that I see that are really apparent. The signal to noise ratio. There is so much information out there, and not all of it is credible, and not all of it is high quality. That makes it really, really hard for people to sort it out. So that is why it's really important when you are communicating that you're doing it in a thoughtful way, that you're not being a fire starter, that you're not throwing bombs, so to speak, kind of into there. I'm just looking at my notes here, that you are setting a constructive and a helpful tone so that you can break through that noise. So as a business and as a person, people have a lot more time online to communicate right now because they're not going out as much. So that signal to noise ratio is high. So again, go back to how do I create value? How do I help people care for themselves or their business? How do I help them connect socially? And how do I help them find identity? And as you're moving through that, think of that for that signal to noise ratio. It's constantly changing. You could say something one day and the next day it has changed. I mean, we saw that. I'll use the example of the communication from the state at the beginning. I think it was really hard for them to kind of get ahead of it. Things were changing so quickly that everything seemed a little bit scattered. And we have to give people grace during this time because we are operating in constantly changing conditions. I saw there were some folks that got upset at the city of Reno yesterday on social media because they had something posted on their door that they weren't following the rules and therefore they were going to be closed down. Well, they were already closed down because they're a bar, so they couldn't be closed down. But we have to remember to give people grace because we are moving quickly and we are changing. And the best thing you can do is if you make a mistake in your communication because something happened so quickly, acknowledge it and apologize and move on. Don't try to make excuses. Don't try to swim your way out of it. Acknowledge it, apologize for it, and move on. And I think that's one of the best ways that we can navigate this. Emotions are high. The general temperature of the public mood is running high, and that makes it even harder, which is why I think it's best to, before you push something out, before you post something, before you communicate in something, you have to step back and think about how would someone else feel about this? How would it affect them? What decision would it drive them to? I, as many of you know, I do get in some kerfuffles sometimes with people about different things. And I've had to really kind of step back and think about everyone's temperatures running high. And how do we really look at this from how is it creating value? How is me jumping into this conversation creating value? How is me offering this solution creating value? How am I creating something that's speaking to someone personally? The lack of flexibility. We do feel like we don't have as much flexibility right now because things are not really going in a framework because there is really no framework. So it makes us a little bit scared and a little bit uneasy because we don't have as much order in our lives. And it can make us prone to break under pressure. So, it's okay if things don't go as planned. I think the one lesson I hope you guys move away from with this, that it's better to be empathetic than it is to be right. And that you can look at that in your marketing. It's better to understand someone and to try to put yourselves in their shoes than it is to point your finger at them and tell them they should do it this way or another. And think about it as a business as well. As you're trying to help a business solve a problem, put yourself in the shoes of the consumer and think about the challenges they're facing. Taking the panic out of pandemic. Don't panic, slow down. Breathe, talk to the people around you, look at what other businesses in your sector are doing, and not even in your sector, kind of all around, and think about how you can not react, but you can actually lead more by example instead of leading from a place of fear. So I'm going to talk a little bit right now about a campaign that we had the privilege to create during COVID. And this campaign is a little bit personal to me, and it is because behind every determined dreamer is a bold bank. So full disclosure, Plumas Bank is also my bank. And I think for all of us, for every business owner, the scariest thing in the world was I going to get the PPP? And how did I do that? And I think for a lot of business owners that maybe had a larger scale bank, I'm not saying either one is better or worse, they didn't feel like they had a bold bank next to them. Like they had someone that was thinking about them personally. Like they had someone that was thinking about them from a social connection standpoint, a self-care standpoint, and an identity standpoint. They didn't have someone that was creating value for them. And Plymouth Bank is a community bank. So they came to us to help create a campaign that really connected to their core audience, the small business, and really showed that things are not just transactional anymore, and that you really need a partner moving forward, and that you need someone that's gonna not just stand with you, but stand next to you. So we asked those questions. We dug deep to understand the mission, the vision, and the values and the goals of Plymouth Bank to help develop creative messaging that was timely. You have to meet people where they're at in their path to purchase. And right now, people are worried. I mean, businesses are worried. They are concerned. They don't really know what's going to happen next. So now is the time. You have to be valuable to your customers. What value can you offer that is different than what someone else is offering? What thing can you bring to the table that separates you? What service can you offer that isn't just transactional, that isn't just put in a box? And we help discover those things. And how do you connect most to the thing that people are most concerned about? As a business owner, I'm most concerned about being able to operate my business, being able to access capital, being able to make payroll, being able to have runway. And Plymouth Bank really connects with all of those things. So here are some ways that we did that. Remember your foundation. Be open to conversations about what your business or organization means to achieve, both in abstract and execution. What are your lofty goals? What are your customers' lofty goals? And what does that look like in terms of conversion? What action do you need them to take? And how do you present yourself as the problem solver to those goals, right? From a business standpoint, our lofty goals are to be able to make sure that we have a bank that is open to conversation, right? Open to helping us, open to looking at us as people, not as a number. And we tried to take a lot of those things and really transition those into the Plymouth Bank campaign. Understanding evolving concerns. I think as we move through a recession, a pandemic, social injustice, and economic disaster, what are those concerns? What anxieties do people have, and how are they relevant to the work that you are trying to do to connect them to? How can you meet them where they need you most? And this was something that, along with Stacy, we thought about a lot. What are the concerns of the business owner? And what does the business owner really need during these times? And with Plymouth Bank, one thing that we did, you have to meet people where they are at on their path to purchase. I cannot say that enough. Sometimes, you meet people when they're searching. Sometimes you meet people when they're reading a news article. Sometimes you meet people on social media, and meeting them is really them discovering you and finding you, and you providing that perspective where they're at. And we thought one of the best ways to do this was to really use the real life story of local entrepreneurs that Plymouth Bank had met was helping during this process, and show through video, through social, through PR, and through creative, how having a community bank solves that problem. How having someone that is there for you, meeting you where you need them, solves that problem. And then plan and execute with flexibly. Flexibility is everything right now. So you have to create plans and contingency plans that are designed to move your organizational mission forward and to serve the changing needs. You've got to be, I know agile is a word like pivot, disruption, and innovation. We're all tired of hearing it. But agile is important right now. And though banking isn't necessarily agile, community banking, we discovered, is a lot more agile than big banking, right? And that is what a business is looking for. So those are some of the themes and ideas and understanding that we were able to glean from talking to different customers. Those were the things that were important to them. So as we created these videos, these ads, and kind of our PR campaign, we really thought about that and thought about putting those themes in. So another thing, it's really important important right now to listen to what people need right now. You probably have a lot of research from before COVID, but that doesn't really matter as much because that's before COVID. You need to think about what people need now. So I would encourage all of you, you could do a quick online focus group. You could do a quick survey to your database, but really find out what your customers need right now, because it could be a little bit different than what you thought they might have need. So what does this all look like? So we've been advising our clients to take an adaptive, empathetic, community-oriented approach to their outreach strategies. Think about things that can pivot quickly. Think about things that really touch people and touch them personally and passionately and show empathy. And think about how you can really tie to your community, whether it's tourism, whether it's banking, whether it's construction. You really need to really connect with your community through your outreach strategies and tactics. For Plymouth Bank, that meant getting back to basics, caring deeply, personally. Their organization connects with the people that they serve. They are a caring organization. They are not a transactional organization. I would encourage all of you to think about what are those pillars that are more empathetic, that are more caring, that are more connected versus just being a transactional organization. As we move forward into what could potentially be tougher times, transactional relationships are going to be the first relationships that are cut. Relationships that are built on trust, that are built on advice, that are built on compassion, and also knowledge, and a true understanding and a foundation of the process is important. But I think people are going to be looking for other things. So as we talk about community banking and focus, what do we mean? So we knew from our industry and research that the main concerns from the customers were safety and wellness, adaptivity to financial planning, and assistance in keeping their homes and business afloat. So everything we built really came back to that. So I cannot stress enough, as you're developing a marketing campaign in COVID and over the next year, really talk to your customers and find out what it is that they need now. The do's and don'ts. Think about the points of alignment between organizational goals. What is it that your organization needs to do, and what does your customer need? So you might be trying to sell something, but what your customer really might need right now is advice or education. Selling right now is probably direct selling is probably not the best way to develop that ongoing relationship. So really think about what your customer needs and provide them with what they need. Don't fan the flames of controversy, though I'm not always very good at that. Focusing on providing timely, relevant information that helps people make good decisions. You know, they always say content marketing is king, even more so now. The more you can push out good, relevant content that is helping people understand where they're at, what they could do, and providing them with data that you've developed, that's going to help them develop a relationship with you. Don't contribute to the conversation if it's not going to have a positive, realistic outcome. Leave your audience with a positive feeling and impression. I feel like that is something that we really tried to do with the Plymouth Bank campaign. We are a bold bank, and you are a determined dreamer, right? And we are here to help you. We didn't throw the big banks under the bus. That wasn't the goal. We weren't here to say what they're not doing. You don't need to focus on what your competition is not doing. You need to focus on what you are doing, and you need to have a positive slant to that. More than ever, we need positive marketing, not negative marketing. We need uplifting marketing, not marketing that's pointing fingers. We need conversation that is promoting collaboration, not conversation that is promoting controversy. So express it privately, but not on your business page. Vet the sources of information. We're all sharing a lot of things right now, and we need to really think twice. Even when we're sharing things that we want to educate our customers with, we need to really think twice, even more so now, about where that's coming from. We don't want to be the person that spreads information. And if you do, acknowledge it, apologize for it, and move on. Be empathetic, thoughtful, helpful, and kind. Don't point fingers or distribute blame, and step away from the conversation when appropriate, and be willing to admit when something is outside of your realm of expertise. I think people might be asking you to do a lot of different things that maybe you're not used to right now because everybody has 10 jobs. Don't try to push your business into something that really isn't what you do. I don't think that's going to build kind of consensus, and it's definitely not going to build a sense of trust as we move forward. More important now than ever is to connect with people through where they feel comfortable, through where they feel passion, through where they feel trust, less so to connect with people in a transactional way. We're in a crazy world. None of us know what we're doing, really. Everybody is looking for someone to help lift them up, to help educate them, and to help point them in the right direction. And I think there's a great opportunity for businesses to do that. And it's about how you frame that, and how you meet that core need of your consumer. So understanding what their core needs are, how you can provide educational and valuable resources to meet those core needs. And then once you develop that trust, how you can actually become that business, that person, that partner that can help them move to the next step. And that is through being helpful and empathetic as we move through kind of this post-COVID world. So that is really kind of what I have for you guys today. It's really about emotional connections right now, but it's not about being antagonistic right now. So the more you can connect emotionally with folks, I think the more you're going to be able to help lift them out of this tough time, put them on a path to purchase, in all honesty, without directly selling to them. All right. That's what I got. Yeah. Is there anything, any questions, concerns, anything you guys are trying to do? We're going to go into political season now, so media is going to get even really inexpensive. It's going to get a bit more expensive. So if you're thinking of doing any media buys, I would do them right now and lock those rates in before it does get a lot more expensive. There's some great deals out there. And we have to remember during this time to continue to support our organizations with advertising, because the last thing we want is not to have any news outlets out there when this is done, and just to have social media as our news source from Russian-sponsored trolls.
I have a comment. This is Diane from PBS Reno, and I how are you? Thank you. PBS doesn't take political ads, so just letting you know that during that time frame, our rates do not get that expensive. They stay the same. So just throwing that out there.
That's, PBS isn't a place where you necessarily advertise either. You connect with audiences that have like a set of values, right?
Absolutely.
So that is actually during this time a really good channel, because people want to see that you feel about things the same way they do. So sponsoring something on PBS is a good way to spend your money right now, I think, for sure.
Yeah, and the whole community, that story you just told about Plymouth is all about who we are, connecting with the community. So it was really interesting. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, support your local people this time. Because it's going to be tough for a lot of us. I'll be very honest with you guys. At the beginning of COVID, I had to lay off 30% of my staff because I lost 35% of my business within 2 days. I was having conversations I thought I would have once every 6 months, and all of a sudden I was having them all at once, and it was scary. And, as a community, I hope we can rally together and lift each other up. If you see someone looking for a job, share their post on LinkedIn, right? Because there are people that are out of work right now. Support those people, lift them up, see how you can help them. We're really trying to bring a lot of any contractors we use, we're trying to make sure they're local. Now's the time we're going to have to roll back to a little bit of like 2010, which is really lifting each other up and supporting each other. And I hope keep me in check, guys, because I need to make sure I'm doing that. And if there's things I can do to help all of you, remind me, let me know, because now's the time. I don't think it's going to be super easy for the next few years. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't know.
Abbi, you had given the example of Plymouth Bank. Is there anybody else in town that you can offer up as a good example of how you should be doing it?
ITS. Patrick's here. ITS is indirectly marketing ITS, but I don't think that's their primary goal, but it's definitely a great goal if they're looking to hire folks, right? Because they were the first company to really roll out with, hey, we're going to provide a place and a framework to get these used computers. So maybe Patrick, if he's still here, could talk about that, because I think they've done a great job.
I appreciate that, Abbi. Now is a great time, as Abby's pointed out. A lot of people are struggling. I mean, there are some people that are doing well, and that's awesome, but there are a lot of people that are struggling in our community. And if you are a company that is continuing to do well, now's the time to help the community, man. Now's the time to step up and help those that really need it. And yeah, a perfect example is with all of this distance learning, it just really shines a light on the fact that we have a lot of families and kids in this community that don't even have access to computers to do their schoolwork. As everyone knows, it's more important now with distance learning becoming the norm. And yeah, I mean, if you can find any other organization, there's so many good ones out there right now that really need our help. And if you are a company that's continuing to roll with the punches and stay above the fray, then now's the time to jump in and help out. So I guess that'd be my one recommendation right now is if you're doing well, spread the wealth and help out others that need it. Because now is the time, man. If you're not going to do it now, I don't know when.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Abby.
No, you guys have, I think it's amazing to see. I think that there are these local success stories, right? And now more than ever, it is your responsibility to step up to the plate if you're doing well, right? A lot of the different construction companies, Q&D is a great example. You know, they created this campaign at the beginning of COVID, and I know ITS accepted the challenge actually, where they challenged the different business to buy lunch from a different restaurant every day. And by the end, there were hundreds of businesses that were doing well, a lot of them in kind of the construction logistics space, that were buying lunch from these restaurants every day. So what does that do? It keeps a restaurant open, it keeps the people working, and it connects you with your community. And it's critical right now that we, I use the Plumas Bank example, and they talk about community banking all the time, right? That word community, that needs to be in the front of all of our minds. How can we help? Ira, I put this post out for, I changed SOS Washoe from Save Our Schools to support our students. And I'm trying to get businesses, and I just got 30K from a business, and I'm so excited. I'm trying to get businesses to, hey, we're not gonna get our kids computers fast enough. So how do we help out? Ira was like, Abby, I'm buying some computers myself, and I'm going to get them to kids. And hey, businesses, if you can do this, challenge someone to do that. Even if we are in competing industries, right? If you really want to connect, and if you really want to be a community advocate and supporter, and that is really where my passion lies, and you guys all know that. I just have the Abbi agency to help me pay the bills along the way. Then now is the time. And if you want to market yourself, then become a community advocate. Become someone that figures out how you can help the community, and then business will come to you. It does. That's what happens. Business comes to people that do good. And Edith, people that have their cats in their videos, because I typically have mine on my shoulder, girl, but I had to put them away today because they're always crawling over. So as Renoites, as Nevadans, as Washoe Countyans, now is the time not to ask, what can my city give me, but what can I give to my city? So I challenge all of you, if you want to build your personal brand, now is the time when there's something, it doesn't have to be money. It can be services. It can be, that's not transactional, that's trustworthy. And that is really creating value for your community, which is what we should all be doing right now.
Yeah, Abby, I wanted to touch on your point about organizations really staying true to their core, but also looking at what opportunities there are to help the community. I'm on the board at the Discovery Museum, and one of the things that they've done, even though they've had to close to general visitation, they have this hybrid model that they've launched in distance learning model, where the students in our schools, when they aren't actually in school on A and B track, the Discovery Museum created space so those students can come to the Discovery Museum, have access to free Wi-Fi, and not only have sort of a study environment, but also continue that science learning as well to help support the schools. So we're seeing organizations step up in different ways than we saw before because of the pandemic and trying to help, come together. I think that's really exciting. I want to see that kind of stuff continue far beyond when we've handled COVID-19.
Yeah. You see people really rise up, right? And that inspires you. And I think if it's one thing we do as a community, we rise up, right? And we can.
I want to jump in, Abby, real quick. Just, I would not have seen the SOS change and And ironically, I didn't even realize that Kendall Inskip was the executive director of education. Like, I didn't even know that's where she was. But let's use our social media channels to not complain, but to share things and opportunities. And you know, I don't have school age kids, but at some point, my kids are going to hire the kids that are seniors in high school. And if they don't have computers and they don't have access to internet, there are things in our community. That's what we should be using our social media for. Let's share those things. You know, I challenged all my friends on social to go buy a computer, the $360. Every computer will go to a kid and help them succeed. It's not a maybe they'll do okay. You put a computer into a kid's hand and it's going to change the way that their success or failure in school is. So I think for, you know, everybody that owns a business here, we can get this, that the numbers are coming down of how many kids don't have computers. Let's just get this done. And, you know, Stacy, this is great that there is a place where if you don't have internet at home, we can get it for you. I know Spectrum has a program. If you don't have internet and you live in an apartment complex and they go to your apartment, they will get it into your apartment. But that's what we should be using our social for.
Absolutely. I think, you know, I do see so much like people get angry at the school district and I'm like, stop, you guys, like we gotta work together. I think it's just so important now more than ever. To think that some kids don't even have a computer, like we're doing distance learning. And as a business community, you know, I think it just, you can chip away at things one by one, right?
Abby, great presentation. Good to see you. I've been seeing your pictures.
Talk about someone that does a lot for the community, Danny.
I saw your pictures from Glacier. That's awesome. Great presentation, great feedback from everybody on the call. You know, us at My Hometown Heroes providing scholarships to college-bound cancer survivors. We were on trajectory to have just an absolutely record-breaking year. Then COVID went down and we lost 90% of our sponsorship revenue at that time. But, you know, we had some of the right resources in place and we brought back up to 80% capacity. And then we had another one come in and we're actually 10% over with our sponsorship this year, which has been fantastic. So we have an annual event called Heroes Night Out that we launched last year, and it takes place in Victorian Square. And we did $20,000 in scholarships the first year out. So when COVID went down, we did a slight pivot and called it Heroes Night In, which was, instead of having it be a one-day event, it was a summer-long campaign that lasted from June 1st through August 31st. And, you know, we were able to leverage our current corporate partners to get involved with that. So they had exposure for the entire summer through this campaign. And then we're actually pivoting again to bring it back to an in-person event on September 16th with, you know, social distancing guidelines in place to kind of celebrate it, because this is the 10th year anniversary of My Hometown Heroes. And, you know, we want to make some noise whenever we have a big celebration like that. But another thing that we did to pivot during the whole COVID pandemic is, you know, because our scholarship recipients are from all across the country, we've had this idea for a couple of years that we need to create some sort of virtual platform for our scholarship families and their community and their doctors to kind of weigh in on their experiences. So within 3 weeks, 3 weeks prior to launch the actual event, we created a virtual survivor summit, and we had 30 engaged participants on each of the 4 sessions. And we're in the editing phases right now, but it was extreme. It didn't cost us anything except for the $15 a month Zoom subscription. But now we can leverage all of that equity and throw it onto YouTube. And now we have 4 amazing sessions on leadership, you know, the patient parent dynamic on going through treatment, on what that's like from both perspectives. We brought in 2 mental health professionals. So we were able to make this enormous impact that's going to be living on digital for as long as, you know, digital is around. And, you know, this is going to, you know, for us, it's really, it's really where we're going over the next 10 years, and we're able to leverage this digital asset through the summit, which is going to be an annual thing. And so many wonderful things are going to come out of this, and I can't wait till it comes out next year to see the growth. So we've been able to pivot and adapt to what we have to work with.
Digital. I think if the more we can all learn how, things are going to be online for a little bit, and there are ways to leverage that, right? And it sounds like you created a whole virtual summit. You see a lot of that. You see a lot of people doing a lot more webinars, and a lot more people attending webinars now than ever before. So that's the way that you can. And then people feel connected too. You get a chance to see people somewhat in person, right? And feel inspired. We all need some inspiration during this time.
Abbi, you make it. Go ahead, Sam.
I have a question for you. So I also work at PBS Reno. I'm the membership director. And something I've been doing over the last couple months is almost every week I have a Zoom call with members. I send out an open invite to members of the station, and it's different subsections, like maybe the longest term members, maybe the newest members, maybe people who donated for a specific program or something like that. But I'm having issues getting attendance to be regular. Like I'll have like 60 people RSVP and 7 will show up, or I'll have 10 people RSVP and 40 will show up. And I was wondering if there was a way, like communication-wise, that I could be more clear about people attending.
Yeah, that's a problem all the time, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it sounds like sometimes you get pretty good attendance though. So it's not always attendance, it's just consistent attendance. So that's actually good, because a lot of the time it's the opposite. You have 60 RSVP and 7 show up. So, I mean, I would always send people a reminder 3 days before, right? And then send them a reminder the morning of, so that they know that, and not just on like a Facebook evite, but also on, and then maybe if you're keeping track of the folks that sign up but don't show up, you could reach out to them a little more personally and nudge them along the way. I don't know if I recommend this or not, but it is something that I think about, right? When I get a text from someone, it definitely pops in quicker than in my email. So if you have a closer relationship with those guys, you could, or maybe even start a text chain, or maybe not a chain, because then people will mute it, but just say, hey, super excited for you to come. Sometimes having a guest speaker is really helpful too. We do those for the Realty Association of Reno Sparks, and also the builders, and we bring in a different guest speaker, and that's super helpful. Yesterday, we helped the Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Nevada expand up here to Northern Nevada, and they had a mixer last night virtually, and they sent wine to all their new members. So sometimes even cultivating with a little gift or something, I know you might not want to spend money, but that's a way to get people to kind of buy in a little more. Maybe invite people to do like a 1 minute, invite 10 people to do kind of a quick 1 minute. If there's a topic you're kind of talking around, to kind of weigh in on that topic. So you pick out some people to talk besides you, because sometimes it can be exhausting talking for, oh yeah, girl, I get it. So those are just some ideas that might help.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's really helpful. Like, one of the main topics, obviously, we've been talking about is education. And another one is we're doing a community award ceremony. But the community award ceremony is on the 13th of September. So I have to think of other things to talk about now. Oh, there's only so long I can talk about it until it happens. But yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll get some of our content creators, some of our producers on to talk about producing television.
Some of the people that you guys have impacted. I don't know if there's any way you can get like some national folks even. So everyone loves the Downton Abbey, right? There's other, but I don't know if there's someone that, because PBS wants to keep people engaged, if you could get one of those bigger people don't get to talk to all the time, to pop in for 5 minutes and give a little behind the scenes or some, I think that could be really interesting actually.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. I have a couple of good relationships with some of the national producers as well. Like we know the executive producer of Nature pretty well. So yeah,
people would love that.
Yeah, cool.
And then do some sort of challenge afterwards, like, hey guys, go out and I don't know, something to keep people engaged.
Awesome, thank you, Abbi.
And that's a plus doing things virtually, I guess, because you can have them pop on.
Yeah, even though he lives in New York. Yeah.
Right.
Abby, you mentioned the webinars, and one of the things interesting that we've found is we've been doing this now for over 6 months, and we have all these archived on our website. We continue to get viewers for the ones that we posted 6 months ago. So these things have such incredible shelf life. So it's not just the number of people who watch it. And in fact, for every person who watches it, we have almost 2 people who watch it later in the archive.
That means they're optimized for great search potentially too. So people are searching. So, but that's the one thing about content, right? The more content you can create and archive on your site, the more that you're able to, I call it owning your audience, not renting your audience from Google. So the more content you can create during this time, and the more you can house that content on your site, and the more that content is searchable, the quicker people will find you for things that you're trying to rank for. And then you don't have to pay Google to be in the top 3 search terms, but people don't even look at the ads anyway. They go and look below that. But I think, you know, organic content is going to become even more important. I don't know. I know Anne is here, and I know she is in PR marketing. I'm just, what tips, how are you dealing with things? What are some of the suggestions you have?
Well, I'm in local government, so some of it is, you know, really nice to hear, but not necessarily practical. What resonated with me in your presentation was the, you know, don't engage, sorry, fire buzzer went off. Is the don't engage, you know, in the S storms that are always out there, and the political arguments and so forth. As the moderator, or as the admin for Churchill County's webpage, I really have to throttle myself back sometimes and not speak for Anne when I'm really speaking for the county. So that's a challenge.
I mean, we moderate the City of Fallon webpage, as you know, and it is hard in government, right? I mean, you guys kind of, Churchill County came out for we need to wear masks. I know the City of Fallon did as well. And that's not always the tone of everybody in the community. And it's tough. Government is tough because you guys are, I mean, damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Exactly.
Well, Anne, if this gives you a little boost at all, I have to say how much we've relied on some of the news reports, the press releases from government and first responder organizations, even Washoe County Sheriff's Office. I don't know how many folks on the webinar experienced the unemployment fraud that was happening during this pandemic. I mean, affecting tons of people. And Sarah Johns, up now at Washoe County Sheriff's Office, released a press release on steps that people could take that several folks had to use, and I was able to share it with some personal networks, but also businesses that I'm interacting with. And then exactly what you said with the face masks. So Plumas Bank is actually in 13 different counties across Northern California and Northern Nevada, and being able to refer people back to the mandates that were being issued helped relieve some of that pressure off the essential businesses that had to stay open and have people coming in. So I just want to give a shout out and say thank you, because I know that work is hard, but we definitely relied on being able to refer back to that stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a core need, right? The government is really meeting a core need of getting us reliable, factual, constant information that then can be used. And I think that is, I mean, one of the places I feel most comfortable getting information from right now, because like we talked about earlier, be careful what you share, because you never know where it comes from. And at least, you know, you feel that, you know, that's vetted information. The Washoe County Sheriff's Department does a great job of being quirky too. I know at the beginning, Darren was doing that, washing his hands for 20 minutes of that, the cop song, bad boys, so that was it, right? And that was fun, right? So if you can bring humor into it to teach a lesson, I think that's, I mean, and you see government sometimes, you know, they do that. It's much harder in Churchill County and Fallon, I think, to bring humor in. I definitely understand.
Yeah, we're not very funny.
Well, it's just more of a framework sometimes. But when you can bring humor in, I think it definitely, the Sheriff's Department does a great job. I love their stuff.
Yeah.
Abbi, that was absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
For you, the world, and you know that. Yes, it is true.
Cool. Well, we will, if anybody didn't catch all of this, we'll send the archive out tomorrow. And Abbi, if you'll send me the PowerPoint, we'll include that.
I will, and I'll send some links too to some stuff that Google's been pushing out recently that I think has some great information, ideas. I don't know if you guys, if everyone subscribes to Think with Google, but it is really, really good stuff. And I highly recommend, if you're gonna look at one source, Think with Google is great. Stay strong, stay positive, stay collaborative, and always ask, how can I help my community? And I think you'll find there's a place for all of us. And when we look at our mental health, I'll leave you on this though. I think Grace talked about this. Mental health is really, really important. And a way we can really, really try to keep that in a good place is really by helping out others, and asking what I can do and how I can help. I think by doing that, you'll find that it lifts you up and it can change a negative tone to a positive tone, and it can make you feel like you're part of something. And we all want to be part of something right now, just as much as we want to have a reason to get dressed and take a shower in the morning. So there we go.